Hello and welcome to the Energy Innovation Days 2021. My name is Christoph Burkhardt and I will be your host for the coming 3 days. Now, every generation faces challenges, good ones and bad ones. And we constantly need to adapt. We constantly need to innovate to live with these challenges and face them. And this is the reason why we have the Energy Innovation Days. Thankfully, when one generation solves a lot of problems, we always leave enough challenges behind, and we always leave problems that we create with the solutions that we create. And this is another reason why we will have to constantly adapt and innovate and have these Energy Innovation Days forever, probably. Now, I've lived in Silicon Valley now for 10 years, and so one thing I've learned is that it takes an ecosystem to really make an idea happen, to turn an idea into an innovation that makes a real difference. And this is why we have, in the coming 3 days, we have people from politics, we have people from science, from the corporate side, from the startup side, from small companies to big companies. We need all angles and all perspectives to make real innovation happen. And this is what we're going to look at. In my day-to-day job, I'm the CEO of an engineering company called One Life, and we're on a mission to make lives better with the minimal impact on our environment. I think this is our time. This is all our responsibility to adapt, to face the challenges of our time, and to make better ideas happen. And this is the reason why we have constant innovation, and this is why we have these Energy Innovation Days 2021. And now that all our preparations are being done, we want to look at the 3 days ahead and the 3 themes we have. Today, we will look at electrification in all details. I'm going to show you the agenda in a minute. Tomorrow, we will look at connectivity and why this is so important for innovation in this field. And day 3 will be all about digital technologies, emerging digital technologies, and digitalization of the existing ecosystems that we have already. These are the 3 days. Now, let's jump into day 1 and have a look at the agenda. Now, we will go through a range of different topics when we talk about electrification. One, of course, everything is about sustainability. We have decarbonization as a topic. We will look into hydrogen and blockchain, of course, 2 very important topics. And then we will ask, is it too little or too late? And what are we going to do in the 10 more years to restore the planet? That's the agenda for day 1. And now it is my pleasure to introduce someone to welcome you all on stage. He is an energetic, unwavering, and enterprising innovator. I had the pleasure to meet him last year already. He knows more about innovation in the energy industry than most other people. And it is my true pleasure to welcome him on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at E.ON. Here's Thomas Beer.
Welcome all viewers from hundreds of cities to the world's largest energy and innovation event. Welcome to Energy Innovation Days 2021. The next 3 days bring us together for one common goal: making the world more connected and sustainable through innovation. We are entering a new era where it's not just about making money. It's about win-win-win. Winning for planet, winning for our customers, winning for our people and shareholders. And innovation is the key to door that opens this new era. We need innovation to transform not only the way we produce energy, but also the way we consume energy, trade goods, transfer money, and most of all, how we create a world that is better than when we got it from the previous generation. I would like to invite you to join the conversations taking place at Energy Innovation Days that are shaping this new era ahead of us. My invite to you is not only simply listen, but ask questions. Actively engage the speakers. Find answers and inspiration that will help you in your own individual journeys. I promise you that at the end of these 3 days, you would look back and find out you have gained invaluable knowledge about the topics that are shaping the energy world. You will look back and realize that you have now a vast network of people who are asking the same questions and working hard to find the same answers as you are. And best of all, you will get the surge of energy that will catapult your thinking on how to make real impact. You and me here today, we are here because we are the innovators. We fix things. If the world has challenges, we have the will to resolve them together. Through the inspiration that you have gained from the Innovation Days, we hope you would make a positive impact on the sustainability of this world and become the source of inspiration for others to follow. With me, with my colleagues, with the community, enjoy the next 3 days and make the most out of it. So, thank you very much. Thanks for listening and welcome to Energy Innovation Days.
Thanks so much, Thomas Beer, for these inspiring and welcoming words to this conference. We're now excited to see what's happening. And it is now, of course, an incredible honor to have the next speaker on stage to open this conference. I want to say 4 things about him. 1, he's the vice president of the German Association of Energy and Water Industries. 2, he's also the vice president of the European Electricity Association. 3, he's the vice chair of the World Energy Council. And he's also married and has 2 daughters. And I wonder which one of the 4 positions and roles is going to impact his speech today on sustainability means innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the CEO of E.ON, Leonhard Birnbaum.
Yeah, thank you, Christoph. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of E.ON, colleagues, welcome also from my side to the E.ON Innovation Days, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today from wherever you are attending this event. And let me start with a small provocation to make it more interesting. The biggest change to our societies today does not come from digital. It comes from the quest for a new, sustainable, climate-neutral way of living. And this is largely the quest for a sustainable, climate-neutral energy supply, i.e. the biggest challenge today, the biggest revolution today, is the energy transition. And this means we need innovation to get it right in energy. We need to explore new paths in our industry. So for you as the innovators, the energy industry is the place to be. And that means that today you are exactly in the right spot attending this event, attending our Innovation Days, the biggest virtual event for energy innovations in Europe. So let me just make some additional remarks. Number 1, despite my intro, I perfectly acknowledge that without the digital revolution, we will not be able to master our energy transition. These revolutions are not mutually exclusive. I will come to this point in a second. Number 2, despite the importance of new technologies, what we really need in our industry is scaling of innovation. Scaling is even more important than new. Why? Because we are a huge system. Energy is about large numbers. And innovations that do not scale are just irrelevant, no matter how groundbreaking they are, because they don't make a real difference. And therefore, number 3 is important. Despite the wide range of specific expertise which we have in the audience, we should have a very broad definition of innovation. We are not only looking at innovations as a game changer, like we see, for example, with new technologies coming up in hydrogen right now. What we also need are the innovations that are made of small everyday steps, the innovations that allow us to scale impact and as a result sum up to a really revolutionary transition. And so process innovation matters as much as product innovation. So we at E.ON are positioning ourselves for this energy transition, and it's actually quite a simple story. More innovation lead to more CO2 reduction. More CO2 reduction addresses the demand of our society for sustainability, and this provides great perspectives for success of our business. So E.ON is a sustainable platform for Europe's green energy transition. Sustainability for us is an opportunity and not a threat. Our businesses are inherently sustainable. And you as innovators in the E.ON cosmos should have one central goal: help to drive our society to carbon net zero. Now, this is not that easy because there is a complication. When Apple came out with the iPhone, the public was very aware of it. Almost everybody was confronted with it via media, people talked about it, it was visible and touchable, you had it in your pocket. And obviously it started to influence all the daily lives. CO2 is also influencing people's lives massively. So much as we know to a very fundamental degree, but it's not visible, it's not touchable. And in the case of CO2 reduction, it's even more complicated. We are innovating to make something invisible, not touchable, not happen. So it's very abstract to a certain way. And this might be challenging, but we all are clear the reward is great and we have to get it right. With every simple innovation for CO2 reduction, we help to actually achieve a climate neutral Europe. With every simple and single innovation for CO2 reduction, we address the demand of society for sustainability, including the demands of our customers and of the financial markets. And with every single innovation for CO2 reduction, we contribute to a healthy planet and a sustainable future. I argue, therefore, a lot of the technologies and processes we need to reduce CO2 are invisible in our daily lives, but they are absolutely crucial nevertheless. Electric cars might be an exception. We see them, also windmills and solar panels, of course. But in fact, the energy system is a bit like a forest. We see the trunks, the tops of the trees, but we don't see the full picture. We don't see the root system below the surface. And so, once again, E.ON is the sustainable platform for Europe's green energy transition. We run the hidden part of our energy system, and we're going to make it grow day by day as ever more sectors, such as traffic or heating, have to become sustainable and become part of our system. And with our networks and solution business, we tackle this challenge from two sides in parallel. First, we innovate directly at the customer side, helping to decarbonize households, municipalities, and businesses. And second, we innovate our energy networks, which are the backbone of the whole system. There are two main necessities now to reach a carbon neutral future. And the first is electrification and green gas solutions, and the second one is interconnection. And my colleagues in the board, Patrick and Thomas, will talk about this later at the Innovation Days. And you will see the boundaries between these topics are blurring. At this point, let me now get back to digitization. Digitization is the central lever to be successful in our core business. Therefore, we are also happy to have now my colleague Viktoria Osatnik new on board. She will tell you, first, why succeeding in the energy transition in our business means succeeding in digitization. And second, what we are doing at E.ON to become more digital. So watch out for their sessions. And one thing is clear, we as the board promote for our E.ON to become the sustainable platform for the energy transition and to create true value for our stakeholders and society. But how do we do this? It has to be done by the many. There's a reason why we do not only target the environmental dimension, but also the social and cultural aspects of ESG. We work for networks and we work in networks. Within our company via flat hierarchies and a transparent culture of collaboration, and beyond our company by collaborating with partners and building networks like we are doing here at the Innovation Days. So this is the way we do it. We turn diversity into innovation, innovation into sustainability, sustainability into growth, and growth into a great perspective for our company. So in other words, we have the unique chance to innovate for a better future, a sustainable company and a sustainable economy. And you, our employees, but also you, our external partners, are the ones who do that on a daily basis. And therefore, I'm looking forward to these days together with you. We hope that you are inspired by the Innovation Days with the spirit of we for a common journey. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to these 2 days.
Thank you so much, Leonhard Birnbaum, for these inspiring words. Yeah, please turn me over here for a few questions from the audience. Now, I heard a lot of things, very interesting that CO2 is invisible, and you said to digitalize is actually the requirement for us to tackle sustainability as an issue. Empowering statements. There are a few questions from the audience. What can EU regulators do to help the industry meet its climate targets? Maybe you can comment on that.
They are trying already quite a lot. They're actually throwing packages of regulation at us at a speed in which we can barely implement them. So I'm struggling now a little bit to point out what they should be doing specifically. We have the EU taxonomy ongoing, where they're trying to actually achieve sustainable finance. They're working on sustainable governance. They're working on a Fit for 55 package. So it's actually hard to say now. I would like to have another few things, but maybe I have 3 comments. First, they should also look at simplicity, because I said it's about scaling, and scaling is easier if it's simple. So maybe sometimes just taking more complications out would help us. Second, they should be thinking about how we actually achieve something. I personally believe the biggest obstacle is not the targets. We have enough targets. The biggest obstacle is we don't get permits. And if we don't get our permits right, actually we will fail. With the current permit system in place, we will not achieve the targets, no matter what EU regulators do. So I would think about simplicity, think about implementation, and permit is for me the absolute crucial one. The last one is think about the infrastructure. If you look at the Fit for 55, infrastructure is actually, I would say, it's very low on the pecking order. So maybe those 3 things, yeah. And then actually, I think we will make it work.
Okay, thank you. Another question is obviously people want to know what you're betting on or what E.ON is betting on. So when you look at the horizon and all the innovations coming our way, which ones are you betting on?
I always struggle with the question if somebody tells me this is the solution for our problem. Yeah? I think I said it already last year on the E.ON Innovation Day. Yes. Whenever I talk to somebody who says, I have the solution for the energy transition, I usually say, stop listening to this guy because he's just wasting your time. I think we need a multitude of innovations. But if I would like, if I should pick out now one, I would say what really makes a difference is if we can digitize our full ecosystems, because we will just not be able to manage the complexity of the future world with all the innovations coming in. So let's say, I don't care, we need every innovation that we can get, but what we absolutely need in any case is we need a full digitization of the system to be able to control that.
In your speech, you also mentioned that the process innovation is at least as important as the product innovation. So what digital technologies do you see on that front?
Oh, actually, when it comes to process innovation, it's not necessarily about, like digitization. For example, I mean, when we started building windmills 20 plus years ago, the biggest obstacle were we had no cranes. If we would have had the windmills which we have today, we wouldn't have known how to actually mount them. We wouldn't have had the infrastructure. So one innovation is just how do you get construction done? Yeah. So when we did the first transmission platform, the first platform for offshore wind farms, yeah, we had huge problems in actually building the platforms for the connection, the DC connection to the coast. We have mastered that by now. So I think it's also kind of like how you do in a repetitive way everything. We have, as E.ON, connected several hundred thousands of solar farms, solar panels, to our Bavarian network, for example. So we needed to get to a place that our systems were able of connecting 300 to 400 solar installations every single day to the net. And you need a machine for that and a process. And that's what I mean with process innovation. How can you actually get your process in the position that you are able to do several hundred connections a day?
Mm-hmm. So this is a lot about execution and the infrastructure around it, so what you need to create. There's one question from the audience. Can you comment on hydrogen, which obviously has an infrastructure problem as well?
Yeah, I think actually on hydrogen, the issue is we have said now 2045 we want to be climate neutral in Europe. Mm-hmm. And we want to be climate neutral, not largely, we want to be 100%. And that is a huge challenge. It's actually more than just 5 years faster. It's actually an exponentially higher challenge than saying we are 90% in 2050. Right now, for all the high temperature applications that we have, forging facilities, cement production, refineries, steel mills, industrial heat, we have no good technology beyond climate neutral gas. So in that sense, for me, to get climate neutral, hydrogen is a must, period. Yeah? And therefore, we need to get it right. And again, if we just get it right for one facility, it's not going to work. We need to get it right at scale, because otherwise it will not work economically. And in that sense, hydrogen is a huge part of the solution. I guess we're going to discuss it today again and again, I think straight as one of the first sessions today.
Exactly. It is an important topic. Here's a question that is very specific. There's an example in it. Australia is starting with mining, which might be a bit better than the methods they used before. But it is, so this is a question about the future and how is sustainability concluding with electrification?
Yeah. But for me, it's crystal clear. Sustainability means electrification.
Okay.
And the only question is, how much? Yeah? So we have several studies out there, 60% like the Euroelectric study of direct electrification. But in the end, hydrogen is just indirect electrification. Green, in the end, hydrogen is about green hydrogen, and green hydrogen is about electrolyzers, and electrolyzers is about electrification. So sustainable energy without electrification will not work, period. Yeah? Now, there is often then the debate, but what about the resources, about the lithium and so on? And we know that we have enough of those resources, and clearly we have more of those resources than we have of capacity of the atmosphere to take more CO2.
Thank you. Maybe to that question again, that you mentioned the scalability is a huge challenge. Maybe can you explain a little more what the real challenges in day-to-day life are about the scalability of these tools?
Yeah, I mean, the real point is that our installed system is huge. If we start changing the system today until we have really changed the whole infrastructure, the whole generation park and so, it just takes us decades. Mm-hmm. It also takes us decades to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah? So for example, the infrastructure which we have in place, the transformers which we have in place, they usually stay in place for 50 years, 60 years. Yeah? The cables sometimes even longer. And so if we start changing something, it takes forever until we have really, an innovation has kind of like really filtered through the system. And the real challenge is somebody needs to pay for it. Now, today we often hear, capital is there for free and you have zero interest rates. So what's the problem? The reality, it's not for free. Capital is a limited resource. Yeah? And actually, employees and demographics show us also, the people who can do the work are also a limited resource, the specialists. And so when it comes to scale, I think financing, which in the end means payments by the customers, and demographics, these are, I think, maybe the most undervalued and obstacles that we should talk much more about. Maybe even more sometimes than innovation.
Okay. That actually leads me directly to a question about the consumers and the customers. You want them to adopt the EVs and the PVs. And how do you do that? How do you help them? Because obviously a lot of this is customer driven.
Yeah, but I would argue you don't need to help them a lot. Just look at the speed at which, for example, EVs are now really kind of like being adopted. So I would say at least for the initial 50, 60%, the adaptation rate will be huge. And we see also pull from the customer side. Now the problem is, how sustainable is that if we can't get the economics right? And we are seeing this right now with all the wholesale markets being in turmoil. It's important that we do the energy transition in a way which is also economically feasibly for most of our population. And if we do that, actually, then I have no doubts, then actually we don't need to convince them. Many consumers and customers have been faster than the energy industry in the first place.
And if I may ask about your dream, so if this all works out and we get there, the vision for what you describe, what could be a utopia look like in 10, 20 years? Sustainability and for E.ON.
I said, we will have much more electricity consumption, but we will have a fully digital infrastructure that allows us to steer that. We will have a completely different market design. We will not be able to work with today's market design in 20 years. We will have flexibility markets. We will have a wide range of new technology being included in the system. But then the customers, and that's the funny part, they won't notice any of that because it will be handled behind the scenes by artificial intelligence that takes care of all the complexity of the system. So that for the consumer, it's just a new world which is completely sustainable and that just works despite being, and that's for us, much more complex and much more challenging.
Thank you so much, Leonhard Birnbaum, for answering the questions, for being here, for taking the time to talk to us. Thanks so much again for your inspiring welcome to this conference. And we will be back at 10:30 right here.
Thank you.